all of this incredible job that we've done will go down like that. It will be a terrible, terrible sight. It might even be a 1929 situation, so you have a chance to have the greatest numbers in history. You're almost there. We're almost back to where we were from the standpoint of the stock market. Think of that. But you'll have a crash like you've never seen before. You put the wrong person in office, you'll see things that you would not have believed are possible.
It is the 19th largest bank in the U.S. It went down in about 40 hours. What do you say to Americans who have real concerns today about their hard-earned savings and money?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we have the FDIC and other safeguards in place in our banking system. And what I would say to them is that our Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary Yellen, the bank regulators, those who provide the guardrails and are safeguarding are closely watching and are prepared to use the tools that they need.
The ninth best performer year to date is SVB Financial. Don't yawn. This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about. SVB is the old Silicon Valley Bank. Recently bought one of our favorite research firms, Nathanson, and it's become less dependent upon private equity and venture capitalist offerings. Wait a second. Those dried up last year. They could come back. Yeah, some of them come back here with the stock directly affects an oversold position. Stock was the fourth worst performer in 2022. I think the fears were not justified, and it's a very compelling situation. Hey, by the way, long-term private equity and venture capital, they're not going away. Being the banker to these immense pools of capital has always been a very good business. Stock's still cheap. Now, you have to remember that a stock that falls 66% like SVB Financial did last year, it takes it a lot more to recover. After losing two-thirds of your value, you need a 200% gain to get back to even. This is arithmetic. Some people call it geometry. So you could argue SVB's nearly 40% rally this year is barely a drop in the bucket. And that's how I want you to think it. I think it's also a good example of why these bounce-back moves might be far from over. These stocks could have more room to run, especially if you think they were driven down to artificially low levels by tax loss selling, artificial dumping, like we saw.
My curiosity is...
I think the Fed is going to watch this very closely. I was just going back and reading their monetary policy report to Congress. They did not at the time see serious liquidity problems or funding issues at the banks. In fact, I think we have a pull quote from that from that monetary policy report to Congress, in which they say, funding risk at domestic banks and broker dealers remain low.
When was this?
This was reported to Congress a week ago Friday.
Okay,
we go today.
Pretty recent.
Look, it's a different regime. We're out there. I hate to use that term, new normal, but there was chatter at the Powell's hearings about a possibility of a longer-term higher interest rates that are part of the environment and the landscape now, and getting used to that. And money's not free. And which part of the country, which sector of the economy benefited the most from free money? It was the tech sector.
Can I just ask one question?
You mentioned Jamie Dimon, so let's bring it back to Jamie and J.P. Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share, and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs?
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
just
what
feel the panic in their voices. But here's
business that is most
here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing, and they did that. That's with every new industry, every new technology comes along, the powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No, that's at the end.
They will adopt this technology.
No, this is the last thing they do. No,
yeah, it's like
it's after. It's after the press planting. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, oh, God, this thing's happening.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, we know Trump knew the crash was coming. And how did he know? Guys, we know the Fed printed 20% of all money in existence in order to create all this inflation and raising rates on the inflation that they caused, which is going to cause the greatest crash in American history. The fall of America to Babylon. And we have the White House speaking about Silicon Valley Bank, one of the largest banks in the U.S. and falls within 48 hours. And guys, we know why. The big corporations pulled the money, causing a run on the bank. And guys, we know if we did this to J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, they wouldn't have the money either. We know all about fractional reserve lending. I give you $1, you loan it out 8 times. And that's the reason why they don't teach finances in school. If they did, the system would not work. And of course, guys, during every single crash, we know we can find a clip from Jim Cramer telling you to buy the stock that's crashing and burning. And recently, the Fed stated that the big banks had no liquidity issues. But guys, we know this was a planned event. Today, the focus was supposed to be on the Fed, job numbers, and of course, Biden's tax plan. All that is put on the back burner. We know the Fed are the master magicians. Get you distracted while they're running the money in the back door. And guys, in this environment, we're going to have higher rates for longer. No more free money. And we know when the Fed was pumping all his money, who was getting it, guys? Tech and cryptos. And now that the Fed is shrinking liquidity, tech and cryptos are going to take a hit. But remember, guys, we're for the fourth industrial revolution. But we know first the NWO has to destroy this legacy market. So that means everything is going to go down. And then once they're finished, then of course the NWO stocks and cryptos rise. The chosen ones. But we know they crash it all, so therefore the sheep are too scared to invest. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you.
Now, frankly, they act like the gang that can't shoot straight, because we should keep raising rates until we break it. Now, it's going to be some pain. Senator Warren, she talks out of both sides of her mouth. What she doesn't realize is the people who pay the most for inflation are the lower income people. Inflation is the most regressive of all taxes ever. We don't like paying higher prices, but we can afford to pay higher prices. Nothing changes in our life. But a family of 4 living from paycheck to paycheck has to start asking the questions, do I go with meat or do I go with a substitute? And on and on and on, because these people are really being impacted. There's no simple way to snap the back of inflation. The Fed needs to be more aggressive and needs to be determined to make it happen. My problem with the Fed overall is there's too many academics in the mix. I think if you had more business people involved or people with business backgrounds, I think you might see a different dialogue and different decisions.
Yeah, that's a
for
great
sure.
point. Yeah.
For sure, Maria.
Yeah.
We would have raised rates a lot sooner, a lot higher, to get a control of inflation. It's now out of control.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, I don't know how you avert a serious financial crisis where we are right now.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea how you do it.
Well,
and now it's a more distinct possibility.
Well, glad you brought up term limits, Ken. We've spoken about this in the past. How is it possible that a politician goes to Washington and ends up spending 40, 50 years? They forget who they're working for. And I want you to know that I spoke with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin on the phone the other day. He came on the show, and before he came on, I talked to him on the phone, and he said to me, you know what, Maria?
A very good friend of mine, Maria.
And he said to me, people are not going to like what I'm going to say, but you know what? I'm for term limits. And I said, wow, Ken Langone told me the same thing. He wants term limits. You even have a sitting Senator, Joe Manchin, calling for term limits, but the people who are going to decide this are the very people who are going to get impacted. So I don't see it happening, Ken. What about you?
Well, I don't see it happening, Maria, unless the American people get so fed up. And Maria, I'm serious. If and when the big crash comes, it is not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. And if we worry about China, we have to worry about China vis-a-vis a weakened American economy, a very weakened American economy.
That's right.
That's where you really run the risk.
Just talked to Larry McDonald. He said there's going to be a stock market crash within 60 days. He's talked to his institutional contacts to come up with that. But I want to get your take on market performance and what's priced in here. You're a big investor. If you expect we're going to see a recession, if you expect things are going to slow down quite a bit this year, does the stock market fall off, or is it priced in?
Maria, let me say this. I'm impervious to that argument for one reason. I'm a very long-term investor. My average holding, that's the weighted average of all my positions, is 41 years. I've owned my Lilly now, it'll be 45 years this November. Home Depot, of course, we founded it in 79. Yum Brands, 25 years. Parker Hannifin, one of the newer editions, 13, 14 years.
Okay.
Bad times come and bad times go. My advice to people is own great companies, great managements, strong balance sheets, a history of periodically raising dividends, and go fishing.
Yeah, I like that. I like the go fishing part.
And put money with Stan Drucken. By the way, put money with Stan Druckenmiller if you can. He's never had a losing year.
Wow.
And I've had the good fortune to be an investor of his since he had less than $1 million in assets.
That's pretty impressive.
But Maria, I'm not smart enough. These pundits that are saying we're going to have a crash in 60, and they may be right, but they also may be wrong.
All right, we'll be watching.
Don't bet against America.
Yeah.
My pitch on investing, Maria.
Yeah.
Bet on America. We're the greatest country on earth. We always will be. We're going through a rough patch. We will get it right. Not without a lot of pain, but we'll get it right.
Amen.
And guys, we have Ken Langone on inflation and the Fed. And of course, he's playing the Hegelian dialectic. He is one of the older NWO puppets, right along with Drunken Miller and George Soros. But he states how much the Fed is hurting the consumer, but we know the Fed says the consumer is in great shape. But we can go to the Fed's website and see credit card debt, loan debt keeps increasing. We know how the consumer is. They're going to keep buying until they can't. We know 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And now all of a sudden, politician term limits are a topic. Now, guys, my historians, my people who understand history know this is how Hitler came into power. Of course, no one looks at Congress and how long they've been there, but you keep rotating your president while your Congress is moving the agenda for the NWO. And we know Germans were brought to their knees, and that's how Hitler came into power. And we can clearly see America is going to be brought to their knees so the NWO can bring in their puppet and bring in the fourth industrial revolution. And Ken Langone speaks of Drunken Miller on how he doesn't lose. The reason why is because he's an NWO puppet. We know he has the same style as George Soros. The only thing they do is follow the NWO's plan. You're never going to lose. But guys, we know this crash and the fall of America to Babylon is definitely coming. Get your friends and family educated. You do not want to be on the wrong side of history, where everybody's having fun this spring and summer, going on vacations. You get in the lab and get yourselves prepared, because the American people are definitely not prepared or even ready to see what the NWO has planned. A bank run is the last thing you should be worried about. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
In essence, the Fed is causing this bank run. In essence, what I've heard from, so we run an institutional platform. Our business is institutional facing. We run a conversation across the Bloomberg network. But here's what the professionals are saying globally, that this is actually a macroprudential risk issue with the Fed, where the Fed's been tightening monetary policy, but financial conditions really haven't been tightening. And so they're very annoyed with this. And I think the New York Fed has gone around to the regional banks and said, listen, your mark-to-market issues are a problem, and you have to play ball and mark these assets to market. And that's creating this tightening of financial conditions that the Fed wants, because that's ultimately what's going to get inflation down.
Silicon Valley Bank, because it appears to me that they made a strategic decision, if you will, because of some of these bonds that they were holding at what was a lower interest rate, and said to themselves, you know what, I'm going to rip this Band-Aid off. I'm not going to do this right now. We're going to sell this. We'll take the loss, and we'll go to a floating rate to try to capture a higher number. That unto itself has been taken by the market as something existential, and I'm not sure whether you think it should be or shouldn't be.
Well, Andrew, I think we don't know all the facts yet, so I want to be a little bit cautious here. But the fact of the matter is, right now, what's happening is they have a combination of problems. One is a lot of their depositors are now pulling funds. That's, right. I think, pretty clear. And they also have this problem with regard to two categories of bonds that they had previously held as capital in terms of their value. So what the instigating shock was, which is what you're sort of getting at, I think still remains a little unclear to me. But the situation that they face right now is, a situation that a bank just doesn't want to find itself in because of this concern. It comes back to that confidence. Once people start, this is the classic run on a bank. I mean, once people start pulling funds, no one wants to be the last person standing.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.